forgiveness, apologizing, and just being gentle in relationships. Just being able to make myself into the type of person who doesn't feel like my pride is such that I can't make amends with people around me. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I find that I've apologized more probably in the last year or two than I have collectively maybe in my whole life. Mm-hmm. And genuine apologies, not just, trying to skim over stuff and just be like, try to get past things, but genuinely apologizing with the understanding that what I've done may have hurt or offended or caused somebody to, feel bad in some way. Awesome. And so that's kind of just been my focus lately, just kind of turning it over and over in my head, just creating myself to be a person that's easier to get along with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Those are the type of people that I want to be around. And so in order to make that happen, I got to be that guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was listening to a video me and Gary watched really recently. And he shared I guess you could call it a parable, maybe. Mm-hmm. It's a parable, anecdote, however you want to describe it. But anyway, he said there was a guy who joined the Army. Sorry, the Navy. He joined the Navy, and he rose in the ranks to become a general, admiral, whatever. And while he was sailing in the night, he saw the lights of another ship in the distance. And he got on a loudspeaker and said, this is the SS so-and-so. Please change your bearing 10 degrees to the east. And a gentle voice came back over another loudspeaker from the distant light that said, actually, you're probably going to want to move 10 degrees to the west. So, his pride started to rise up, the admiral. His pride started to raise up, and he said, no, I am Admiral such and such and such. You're gonna move 10 degrees to the east, change your bearing 10 degrees to the east. This is the U.S. military, U.S. Navy, blah, blah, blah. He said, actually, you're probably going to want to change your direction 10 degrees to the west. And so he got into this shouting, he got really upset and really enraged. And so he went off and said some bad words and all this kind of stuff. Said, change your bearing 10 degrees to the east. And finally, he said, I'm a battleship with the U.S. Navy. Change your bearing immediately 10 degrees east. And the voice came back and said, well, I'm a lighthouse. It's your choice what you want to do.
Nice. That's sweet. I like that.
Yeah. So it just basically was, a story about this man's pride and his ego, not allowing him to bend. Actually, the word that was used was malleable, being malleable in order to bend around certain things that our pride may force us to run into the lighthouse versus being more malleable, where now I can say, okay, well, am I wrong? Am I in a bad spot? So that's kind of just been some stuff that I've been thinking about. Y'all got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I always am of the mind I like to put out something that I want to get back, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? So if I offend somebody, which is rare, if ever, that I know of, I'll clean it up right away. But I kind of go into it with the understanding that this is the kind of communication that I want to get back. You know what I'm saying? So if I get in some kind of disagreement or somebody says something that agitates me or I get annoyed by something, I try and check myself and just, make sure that, hey, whatever comes out next is not, not gonna be something that I might regret. So I always think of like beforehand, like, and however I move, like I'm gonna just put out there what I want to get back. So if it's humor, if it's fun, if it's lighthearted, if it's kindness, if there's any of those things that I would like or would require, then that's what I'm gonna put out first.
Got you.
That's kind of just how my mind is wired, and I don't know if that's kind of how I was brought up, but my wiring is like that.
So you got kind of the do unto others as you would have them do unto you type of mindset?
Yeah, because I think I could probably have a pretty slick tongue, man. I can say stuff like real fast off the cuff.
Right.
People are like, wait a minute.
Right.
Like 5 minutes say like, wait a minute, you just insulted me, man.
Right.
I'm just getting because that's happened before.
Okay.
And I'm like, you know what? I didn't even mean nothing by that. You know what I'm saying? And people think you're always being sarcastic and stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I don't mean to offend, and so, I try and curb it with humor, but then even that can come off as disingenuous. So
absolutely,
just got to constantly, it's a constant reevaluation and constant recalibration of your character. Like you walk into it knowing who you are as a character and how you conduct yourself, how you character yourself, and then carry yourself, and then how people see you. And so it's a juggling act,
gotcha.
How you see yourself, how people see you, and then how you want to be seen. You kind of got to juggle all of that.
Yeah.
And then you come to the conclusion, well, this is how I'm going to interact. This is how I'm going to conduct myself.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And I even look at other people, and I admire other people's like sort of self-control. Then those that lack self-control, you wish you could help them, but
that's good. Good point.
Yeah, but the people that can kind of just be slow to speak, kind of listen, I always like that. So
me too.
Yeah.
Is it now? You mentioned the juggling act with the trying to remember how you put it. The way that you are, the way that you want to be.
Yeah,
potentially, if those two are not the same yet. And then the way that other people perceive you.
Right.
How do you manage those three things and still maintain your own authenticity?
Right. Well, your authenticity is at the top of the list. That's what kind of governs everything. And then you kind of just, all those are just checkpoints of observation. It's not like I'm acting, you know what I'm saying? But it's just being of the mindset of, and I've thought this through, you know what I'm saying? Because you get to the point in your life, it was like you're in situations like people misunderstand you.
Sure.
Because there's been times, man, where I've been serious and people thought I was funny.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So I sit there while everybody's cracking up and I'm like,
get madder and madder.
Because I'll be like, I'm actually serious right now. Right. And then they laugh more, and I'm like, that's all you can do. And so then, you look in the mirror, whatever you got to do is say, what exactly am I doing? Like, what's going on with my face?
Right.
That's miscommunicating. Like, people, because it's cool, man. Like, I think being funny is cool, but it is a two-edged sword.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you want to be taken seriously.
Yep.
They be like, guy, we're not going to take you seriously. You know what I'm saying? So, but
you get typecast.
You get typecast, right?
Absolutely.
But people that actually know you, they know. You know what I'm saying? But... but then they hate the serious guy. They're like, we don't bother with that.
You're right.
Get out of here.
Dog just doom and gloom. Too serious.
Yeah. So
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, but it's more of I think the definition is just being self-aware. You know what I'm saying?
Self-aware.
Yeah, just being self-aware, man. That's all. But I will say, I think that we're in a time, and I love that you bring this up, because I think we're in a time, man, where people don't really take the time to get to know one another intimately, especially with social media and stuff. We always got to bring up social media because I think it's crippling everything dealing with how we socialize, how we interact on an intimate level. You know what I'm saying? And, it's masses of people that probably couldn't sit here like this, look each other in the face and then talk.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think
especially
it's
not organically.
Not organically.
Yeah,
because I've been in some situations. I think we all have people be real fake. Yeah. And it's like, wow, you were bleeding fake right now. And it's like, you can't even stop. They can't stop the hemorrhaging. Look how much fakeness is going on. So, yeah, man.
Right.
I don't know how to be like that, man. So,
yeah, I have a hard time with being fake too, man.
Yeah. Because I feel you when it's like, you be like, I sometimes I won't have a filter and I'll just say things. And I'm like, wow, that was bad.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, that was like out of pocket.
Angry or irritated.
Yeah.
Then the filter just travels further and further back.
Right. He'd be like, that was out of pocket. Like, that situation didn't even warrant that.
Right.
And then, and I said that. So
Then I got to go back and apologize for that. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
So what situations do you find yourself in that where you say things, you got to apologize? Do you feel like you're just insensitive immediately? Or what is the character trait that makes you...
That's actually a really good question. So I had this conversation with a friend of mine about a year ago, and I was like 99.9% of the things that I think aren't said, aren't spoken, mostly because my mind, and this goes back to our personality types, my mind is analytical and logical. And by definition, those things are the opposite of warm and fuzzy and feeling, and sensitive. It's more cold and calculated. Yeah. That's the way my mind naturally works. And so I have to work at being a softer, gentler person. And so knowing that, I always have something that's cold and calculating ready to go. It's just natural. You know what I mean? And so my filter has is not so much being mean or stopping myself from being mean, but it's stopping myself from being, I don't want to say unfeeling, but that's almost kind of what it feels like. You know what I mean?
I think that's where the struggle comes from me when you're saying like trying to be genuine, because that feels like that's home base. You know what I mean? Like that cold, calculated, just straight to the point, logic based feels the most natural.
It feels natural.
And then it feels like, okay, to try to have to soften the blow almost feels like being disingenuous sometimes to me. And that gets frustrating to try to find that balance. You know what I mean?
So my approach with that, because I have the exact same thing. My approach, number one, is when I'm talking to somebody that I know, like y'all, I don't have to give a lot of pauses while I'm talking, except for, you know, if I'm trying to be careful because we're on camera. But if we're just in a general conversation with the four of us or any one of you individually, I don't really hesitate a lot. I'm able to just rattle off what I'm thinking or what I'm feeling, whatever. When I'm in a conversation with someone who I know may be a little more fragile, my speech slows down from 100 miles per hour to about 3.
That's crazy, man. For real?
Yeah. Oh man. Yes.
That's painful, man.
It's only because every word I'm analyzing as it comes out,
I got you.
so that I can. And this is where I feel like I'm being genuine, because I genuinely do love people.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And my genuineness is wanting to be able to communicate with them in a way that is not harmful to them.
Got you.
And so I make the effort to circumvent my natural, you know, kind of just off the cuff calculating without worrying about anybody's feelings conversation. In order to be effective in what I say and how I communicate, but also measure it with grace and love. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or dose it out with grace and love.
That's pretty hard, man.
It's not easy, man.
Yeah. I don't know. Give me an example. Like, are you like, hey, buddy, how are you doing today?
No. So, like, for instance, okay.
Buddy, you okay, buddy?
So, for instance, if I'm having a conversation with a person about, okay, I'll give you a real world example, and this is one that I can say without it being something that we have to edit or, you know.
Yeah.
I've had conversations with lady friends of mine who are in relationship, and I mean lady friends, not girlfriends, not romantic, just friends who happen to be women.
Yeah.
I've had conversations with them about abusive relationships or things that they're dealing with that they have control over whether or not they can stay or leave, you know, that type of thing.
Right.
And in my mind, my thing is, dog, get up and go. That's my knee-jerk reaction is there's no feeling involved here. Get up and go. If you're getting thrown down the stairs on a regular basis, get up and go. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's my logic speaking, not taking into account, okay, well, there are, you know, serious emotional ties in a relationship where a person feels trapped. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true.
Then also you have to think about, you know, sometimes there's a financial aspect. You know, where are you going to go? You know, that type of thing. And so that's why, I mean, I have to slow myself down and process all of the variables that my calculations or my logic would just ignore.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
And that's cool. That's just exercising empathy, man.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, I think it's imperative. And I think that's actually a really good practice, because I think that's a dying feature of the human condition.
Yeah.
Is people just exercising empathy on a daily basis.
Right.
I mean, because I think that's why everybody in general is more cold and callous towards one another, because we don't want to really just sit and listen to somebody, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And then, you know, the emotional thing, nobody wants to deal with people's emotions or listen to how they're handling the things in their life. But I think that's a really good thing you're doing, man, because it just makes, and it builds character for yourself.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. So, I'm happy with the progress that I've made in that.
Everybody wins with that, man.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. I agree with you. What about you? You got any
I'm just kind of absorbing everything, because I think that I'm in the process of change anyway, transition of actually becoming what that is. You know, more and more is like slowing down and really hearing the need.
Yeah,
that's the biggest part, is hear the need.
Absolutely.
And
100%.
and the forgiveness, man, is a main ingredient that we all should exercise daily.
Yeah.
Forgiving ourselves for one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
Number
where it
one.
starts.
That's the hard
Number
one.
one.
That's the hardest one.
That's the hardest one. So there's a lot of stuff that we've have in our life have been placed in the environments, the culture, situations that has processed or caused us to process information. And when we process information, our output is going to display that, right?
Right.
So that's the reason why I talk about the transition. You have to realize, like, man, what you're talking about here is end results. But you know what I mean? Like the forgiveness is really an end result of something, right? It's a growth. It's maturity.
That's true.
You see what I'm saying? It's an end result. How do we get there? You know what I mean? That's what Al was talking about. It's like juggling these things. It's like so much you have to. Oh man, like I said, I'm still processing it. It's really good. It's a really good topic. I think. Just let me process it a little bit more.
I forgot that I even talked about forgiveness. I was thinking about apologies, but man, forgiveness is a whole different beast. You know what I mean? Especially, there are levels to the way that a person can hurt or offend or otherwise harm someone, and I don't think that I've ever really been a person that holds grudges. But there are certain blatant offenses that I've experienced in my life that were incredibly difficult to, just let go. Because I don't believe that forgiveness, and this is just my personal belief based on the forgiveness that we receive from our Creator, from the forgiveness that Jesus displayed, from all of the examples that we have that we look to see what forgiveness really is.
Right.
Forgiveness is absolute, or at least it should be. And so for me, I've had experiences where it's been very, very challenging to completely and absolutely forgive someone the way that we've been forgiven.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Forgiveness should be a completely clean slate.
That's the reason why
I had a conversation years and years and years ago about whether or not the forgive and forget, or what was it? Forgive and forget versus I forgive you, but we can never be close to one another again. I'll never allow you in my space again, because that's what most of us do. Yeah. That's what we've come to understand as far as forgiveness. But technically, forgiveness isn't quite like that. You know what I mean?
Agreed,
and so it's challenging for me to. I'm thinking of one offense in my head in particular that where I've forgiven a person, and yet it is a very real challenge for me to even give it a second thought to allowing that person back into my space, back into, or to renew any sort of trust or that type of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm thinking I was sitting there thinking the only forgiveness I would have a hard time with is somebody that's blatantly dishonest.
Yeah, and that's what it was.
I can forgive pretty much anything, but if you're just a bold-faced liar and you lie when the truth will do, then I can't be bothered with you. You know what I'm saying?
You lie when the truth will do.
Because people like that, man. They'll just lie for nothing.
For no reason.
Right.
Yeah, just lie to kind of act like they leveled up or something. You don't have to lie about anything.
Right.
So this is where, like I said, I'm in the transition period right now, where I'm trying not to allow anything to affect me.
Okay.
Like flat out, right?
Okay.
And I'm working towards that, where words, like you said, like why lie when the truth will do?
Yeah,
like
man.
when someone speaks or spits some venom on you or whatever the case may be, I'm trying to arm my mind the way Christ armed himself. I see two very, very good examples in Scripture, man, where Jesus was on the cross. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. This man, he went on the cross. And he didn't even.
That's crazy.
He didn't even need a righteous man doing the best he possibly could for mankind, and people hated him for it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And you got Stephen in front of the same type of mindset, and they hauled him off, put him to a pit, stoned him. He says, Father, lay them not to.
They're not this into their charge.
I think those are two areas that I'm really focusing my life on right now.
Yeah.
And It's tough, man.
It's tough, man.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
tough. It's
I feel
tough.
you,
It's
bro.
tough.
Would y'all
It's
agree
tough.
that forgiveness should be absolute?
Yeah.
Yes.
I would agree with
It
that.
should be absolute, but I think too, like you brought up the example earlier of like a female like in an abusive relationship, right? So I think that some amount of self-care has to be there. Like if forgiving a person and letting them back into your space means they're going to hurt you again, or there's that risk, I think that there has to be, again, some kind of balance there.
Like common sense, you mean?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like I think it's more about, I think what you were talking about, and that's something I'm kind of working on in myself too, is being able to forgive them and genuinely wish them well. You know what I mean? Because I think that's what it comes down to. Is like, you know, when you're saying you forgive somebody, it's easy to say the words, but when the door closes and you back home, how do you really feel?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I think is like, you know, that's the real measure of, because again, you can make it seem to somebody that you have forgiven them all day long to their face, but it's like, okay, when I go back home and the doors are closed, how do I really feel?
What's in my heart?
Exactly. And that's what I think we have to explore, and again, try to force ourselves into that mentality of what does forgiveness actually look like. I don't want to redefine it. I don't want to make some definition of it that's convenient for me or that fits what I'm doing in this situation. What does the actual word mean?
Beautiful.
And let me correct myself where I find I don't line up. And I probably won't line up a lot, you know what I mean?
Right.
But to realize, okay, this is something I'm working on or something that I'm striving for, right?
Yeah.
So
Is it possible, I would ask, like you mentioned earlier, to actually forgive in all its fullness and just move on? Because, I mean, you don't have to be like, I don't want you in my life, but you can be like, I'm forgiving you as well as simultaneously moving on.
Yeah.
I think that might be a part of the package.
That's good.
I don't want to, but I don't want to be somebody that's tailor making it for it.
no, but I
You know
think
what I'm
I think that's a safe way, I think, to approach it, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, okay, well, the situation that I was in, because that could be it. The situation I was in that even allowed this hurt to come. I'm moving past that situation or past that, you know, whatever the circumstance
is,
may
right.
be, right? I'm not in that place anymore where I'm going to even be susceptible or vulnerable to that anymore,
Exactly.
right? And maybe I think we have to be careful because we can be very crafty, right?
Exactly.
We have to be careful to make sure we're not trying to, I don't know, trying to manipulate circumstances, you know, to kind of make it come out in a way that's convenient or easier for us.
Right.
But, you know, if we really are in that place, okay, well, I'm not going to be in that place to be that vulnerable anymore, so it's not something we have to worry about. If that's really the case, and that's what it is.
Right.
And this is where it becomes difficult, too, because nobody's in your heart but you and God, you know, you and your creator. So it's just like, it's you got to really be honest with yourself. And that's where you know, that's where it becomes difficult. Is that thing we were talking about before again.
That's
it's just,
powerful.
you got to really, really be honest with yourself and really ask yourself those questions. You know, how do I really, really feel?
Yeah.
Because you can't deal with it. If you can't even admit to yourself what you're feeling, you can't deal with it. You can't even acknowledge that there's a problem there or something that you want to improve.
Right.
If you're telling yourself there's not a problem.
Right.
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 So
Absolutely.
I'm wondering, is it safe for the process to be forgive yourself in that situation? Because sometimes you have to forgive yourself within the situation, like forgive yourself for not seeing something, or forgive yourself for letting your guard down, whatever it is. Then the process can maybe move forward of, I got to forgive this person because it's part of my healing, my growth, and how I have to move past it.
Sure.
Because, you know, you got people, man, that dealing with some deep stuff, man. You know, like, you know, all kinds of things when it comes to somebody being dishonest or somebody abandoning them, things like that, or abusive. And you have to forgive yourself in that situation, because some people beat themselves up always. Like the women that are battered like that, they beat themselves up all the time.
Yeah.
And they tell themselves that they deserve it. And the thing is, you can't tell yourself that.
Right.
You have to tell yourself, I don't deserve this. I deserve better. And I forgive myself for even allowing my existence to succumb to this.
Yeah.
Then you forgive that person for their imperfections, because we're all human at the end of the day. You can forgive a monster, but then you can't stay with that monster. You have to move past that, and that's a part of the forgiving, I think, process. It's not. I mean, I'm just.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
I'm just trying to think of a process, you know, because a lot of people, when you say, what does forgiveness really look like?
Right.
Some people have to give themselves a tangible process to really execute with that.
Sure.
You can't just say, I forgive you. And like you said, then just go home.
Yeah,
and be
man.
like, you being, you know, you go to bed, you're like, man, I can't stand that dude. I really didn't forgive him.
Yeah, and I've done
like,
it.
Yeah, you be like, I really hate him more now because what you.
Because I had to be nice.
No, that's true though.
Yeah,
Exactly.
right,
That's what I was
right.
gonna say.
Yeah,
That's what I was trying to put the words.
Yeah.
You feel like you let them off the hook.
Yeah.
Then you look them in their face. They look in your face. They be like, all right, man, thanks, bro. We good now. You be like,
Yeah.
I hate you more now. because like you said, you let them off the hook, and it's like, So yeah, that's not. I really didn't forgive him. You know.
I think that the way I had to try to process that was it's not letting somebody else off the hook. It's letting you free yourself from carrying that burden around.
Right.
There we go.
Because forgiveness is for you ultimately.
That's really
the number one thing.
You have to take that mindset.
Yep, that's
because,
what it is.
okay, I'm holding on to how I feel about this person. And when I'm in the presence of this person, you feel your rage
that bubbling
you
anger.
feel like
Exactly.
you feel like you get your body's all tensed up. It's like, okay, do I want to be in that mindset? Do I want to carry that around with me all the time?
Yeah.
Or do I want to let somebody who has shown themselves as an enemy or that's done something against me, let them have that kind of control over me? Right. So it's
exactly.
you have to, and you can't make it a selfish process. You can't say I'm going to forgive this person just for the sake of me being able to have a burden lifted off of you.
Because that's not in the spirit of forgiveness. That's not. Yeah.
Right. So it's complicated.
Yeah, it is. Brings to mind the adage of a person who won't forgive or harboring anger towards somebody is like drinking poison and then like me drinking poison and then waiting on him to die. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Right.
That's the craziest thing you can think of.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what unforgiveness is, holding on to grudges and suppressed rage towards a specific individual for some sort of offense.
Yeah.
That's exactly what that is.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, it's complicated.
It's very complicated.
Like you get metaphysical for a minute, and not even that far into it, but there is a school of thought that basically says that suppressed feelings, unresolved feelings, especially negative emotions, is what it leads to disease in our body.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
right.
I've heard about this. Yeah.
Especially like cancer, like is like one of the frequent causes. Like the growth of that cancer is it's fed, yes, physically by nutrients in your body, but more so by negative emotions and the way your body's processing it. And if you're not releasing it in some way or dealing with it in some way, that's what basically feeds and metastasizes, this a growing tumor in you that could eventually take you out. And even like the name dis-ease, like I'm uneasy about something. Right. I'm not at rest. I'm not feeling resolution in certain situations, and that basically is what causes your body physically to start having those kind of reactions. So they say, like, even from like some Eastern teachers, even from like a health standpoint, why it's important to deal with those things and to let go of negative emotions, negative feelings, and things like that.
So there's a study, and I wish I could cite it for y'all, but I'll try to find it and send it to you. Maybe we can even put it in the description.
Okay.
But there's a study that has a person at rest. They test, what is it? It's either their blood oxygen levels or something to do with the blood. At rest, in a calm state of being, a person is able to be at their most healthy. Let's say it like that. During this test, they ask the participant to focus on something that makes them angry. They show them images that are disturbing or whatever. And after, I think, like 10 minutes, there's a physical change. The blood has released toxins from being angry or uneasy or whatever. The blood releases toxins, or the body releases toxins into the blood that literally poisons itself.
Yeah.
The body poisons itself when you're angry or upset or uneasy. Yeah. And so I agree with you 100%. I think that whatever, that study or that philosophy is accurate. If our bodies, our bodies are marvels, you know what I mean?
Right.
The way our minds work, the way our bodies fit together, the way the processes happen electrically, chemically.
Yes.
A lot of it is not just what we eat and drink and the places that we go and how much exercise we get. It's also what is happening in our minds and in our hearts. That affects us positively and negatively depending on what circumstance we find ourselves in. And so I think that, you're absolutely right, man. Harboring negative energy, harboring negative thoughts and emotions are definitely detrimental to us physically. Our bodies can literally deteriorate faster by holding on to grudges and being in a negative space of mind.
Yeah, imagine living a whole life, being this color and dealing with, I mean, I think that's why, you have like certain comorbidities because it's like you have to live in a world.
1,000%.
Yeah, you have to live in a world that's constantly scrutinizing and judging you for a particular thing, and then you're like, you watch your loved ones and family members generationally deal with that all the time, day in and day out. I mean, that will take its toll on any.
For sure.
It's been a lot of eye-opening experiences I've had the past couple of weeks. Just different things hit me, but we always use. I'm sorry, I was talking with my hand over my mouth. We always use, or you always hear the phrase, black don't crack. But I've been hearing a lot more black people talk about, okay, black don't crack. Maybe you retain your youthful look longer, but how much earlier are we dying consistently?
That's very
true. You don't reach the same lifespan.
Right.
So you're talking about them, they maybe age faster. Okay, fine, they age faster, but they also live 20 to 30 years longer than you do on average.
Yeah.
Something else is going on. So stop stop thinking about focusing on this external part of it, and realize that we have more internal things that we have to deal with as well. And I think that what you were saying too is like resolving. You got to give up trying to convince somebody of what your reality is sometimes, and just kind of settle for letting them know, yes, we live in the same country, we occupy the same land, but we do live in two different countries.
We do.
That the experience of this place and black skin is going to be different than somebody else does not.
It is.
And I'm done trying to convince them or trying to explain or trying to, not even in a bad way, not like I've given up, but if somebody is determined to not see it, that's fine. I'm okay with that. It's just we live in two different Americas, and it is what it is. You know what I mean? It's just so, but that being said, right, I don't want to leave it as we live in two different Americas and you walk away angry like we were just saying, right? Because I even when I say metaphysical, I'm trying to get people an out that want to say that's fringe, that's weird. There is actually peer-reviewed science about
100%,
right? About what those negative emotions and negative energy does. And we're at 75% water. There are university studies. Now, most of them are overseas because they just don't get commissioned here. But there's a lot of overseas universities that have studies on the effects of water based on how the water is treated, based on the environment around it, frequencies, music, emotions, that there's peer-reviewed, documented data about how water itself is affected by these things. So if we're 70% water and you put a glass of water next to a song playing something peaceful and loving and something that's horrendous and loud and obnoxious and evil and threatening and everything else, and the molecules of the water change. How do you not think that's going to affect us? You know what I'm saying? We're subjecting ourselves to the same things, including our emotions, our thought processes, and just what's up here, that is going to affect you physically. So I give people the out metaphysically, okay, there's something that people don't want to really address, like a lot of other things too, right? But there's peer-reviewed science that's out there. There's data behind it that proves it,
I believe it 100%.
So,
So I pose a question to us all: can we live in the country and really have forgiveness in our hearts?
Absolutely.
I think it's imperative that we do.
Yeah.
I think it's imperative that we do for increasing our longevity, right, for our lifespan, and trying to find the best way through. It's like that thing we were reading on the personality test the other day, right? That you treat somebody the way you think they ought to be while you allow them to grow into that, or something like that.
I remember that.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's still, we have to figure out a way to live with it and to grow past it and to get better.
Yeah, they make it difficult though.
But we also got to make sure we're not that woman going back into a bad relationship all the time.
That's the balance.
That's where it becomes difficult to say, okay, I want to get better. I want the relationship to get better. I want our mentalities to be better. But not at the expense of your foot being on my neck.
Exactly.
Right. So if that's going to be the only way that you're at peace, then I'm not going to let it be peace. Right. But if we're willing to sit down and have discussions and rationalize, even work through things, whatever that looks like, you know what I mean? I think that's where we have to go, because I really genuinely think, and I think generations past knew it, and it was intentional, that the mentality that we find ourselves in, it is literally killing us. I'm convinced that it is killing us.
I agree.
That is the reason why I think we have high morbidity, and our lifespan, our average lifespan, is so much shorter.
I agree.
Right? Those stresses, those challenges, and the weight that you carry around, the anger and the frustration, it can literally kill a person. And I think that has been killing a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's just something that's not going to be diagnosed as this person died because of anger and died because of rage. And even after our conversation the other day, been thinking about that a lot. If I carry this stuff around with me all the time, I got to think about what it's doing to me. You know what I mean? And trying to figure out ways past that and let that stuff, let stuff go, just to kind of not harbor and carry those things around with you all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
they make it difficult,
Yeah.
brother. I tell you, because I'm like, for me, like you say, carry things around. I think about the Sandra Bland's and the Emmett Tills, right?
all the time.
Then I think about the films that get greenlit that help remind us of
Right.
why we shouldn't forgive.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to see the Emmett Till film.
Right.
Because
Right.
that's another thing that's going to remind me.
I can't. I'm not going to
Yeah.
be able to, but
I'm not going to watch it.
I feel you.
But it's another thing that reminds me of how difficult it actually is to forgive, especially a system that one group benefits off while another one doesn't.
That's what makes it easier for me, though, is
Okay.
because the people that did that to him aren't here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And, okay, people that remain are benefiting from it.
Yeah.
That is what it is.
Yeah.
It's by design. It was intentional.
Yeah.
And maybe they enjoy it, but if we had a situation set up where our life happened to be very good and very favorable for us, and we had privilege in certain things, we wouldn't just spit on that either. You know what I mean? So they're not the ones that committed those atrocities. Now, are atrocities being committed today? Yes, they are, right? Yeah. But still, okay, if you internalize that, you hold that, you harbor it, you carry it around with you, you're literally carrying that around with you, and you're carrying around your own death sentence, basically. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just like we have to find a way to heal and to get through it and to deal with it. You know what I mean? To address it and figure out ways past it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's going to look different for everybody. This again, it's not a one size fits all solution.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, things like that, I'm glad there's reminders, and I'm glad that something like that got greenlit to put that story in the forefront of people's minds as that catalyst for what started the movement.
Yeah.
But I personally, knowing myself and the things that I deal with, I'm probably not going to go see it. You know what I mean? Because I know that's probably something that's going to bring certain feelings up that I don't want to harbor. I don't want to carry around with me.
And as much as I love film and things, and I love these stories, I want our stories to be told, but I feel like we're just in a system that wants to keep reminding us of the evils. And it makes it, when you live your own personal individual lives, you have to deal with the forgiveness of one-on-one with your, people that you're intimate with. And then you got to deal with all these other things on top of that. And that's the only reason I brought all that up. I'm not trying to digress the conversation.
It's part of the conversation.
It's pertinent.
Yeah. It just kind of all brings you back to forgiveness, like you said, is very complicated, particularly more so for us because we have to constantly focus on how we want to forgive and move past something. And then it's a case-by-case situation on top of that.
Well, I think that part of it is understanding as an individual the person that I want to be.
Perfect. Yeah.
Do I want to be the type of person who is angry and full of rage at a system that sees me as less than human? Mm-hmm. Or do I want to be a person that lives above that and is able to live out the rest of the days that I have here on this earth?
Yeah. Happy,
joyful, blissful, enjoying my loved ones and my family.
Yeah.
And allowing that to affect me as little as possible.
Yeah.
That's the guy I want to be.
Yeah.
And so the amount of hatred and rage and frustration that I could carry has no place.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now that's not to say that it's not hard to get to that place. Like I want to be that person.
Yeah.
It's a journey to get there. It's hard. I have to break down a lot of the strongholds that are in my own mind in order to I have to find that solution to that personal problem or just remove it altogether from myself in order to get to be that person. But that's who I want to be. And so ultimately, like I said, there's no place for me to harbor rage. You know what I mean? Once I get to a certain point, and I'm not saying that I'm necessarily there yet, I still think that I have some growth left to do in that particular area. But once I get to that point, forgiveness will come naturally. You know what I'm saying? If I create or if I make myself but work towards being the person that I want to be, I got to be careful how I say things on YouTube with our audience. If I work towards being the person that I want to be, the other attributes that are challenging to me will start to come along naturally. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. It's, for me, I don't like by nature. I try and see the good in everything.
Sure.
But I definitely keep the the rage part like on reserve.
Yeah.
It's just
right.
It's just like you compartmentalize.
Yeah, it's a tag team partner.
Yeah, but right, exactly. But over resigning for me, I'm not that angry black guy. Just I'm just mad at everybody.
Yeah, and I've been that guy, man.
Yeah,
I've been that guy. I've been the angry. When I got to a place where I kind of woke up, and I was raised. I don't want to say completely in a bubble, but I was raised Dexter Linwood area. For those of you who are familiar with Detroit, I went to all black schools all the way up until I was 14. My church was 100% black. My neighborhood was 100% black. My family is 100% black. And so I didn't have much to go on as far as understanding how aggressively evil the system that we live under is. My only frame of reference was going out to, my father took us to do a lot of things that, it's funny, a lot of, we hear this phrase, oh, black people don't do that. Yeah. My father took us to do every one of those things. All the things that, we was ice skating.
Made a point.
Yeah, exactly. Which I'm grateful for, but the thing is that even though we were the only black people, were people of color, period, in a lot of environments when I was a child, I never experienced that I could tell because I was a kid. Even if there was some subversive racism, I didn't pick up on it. It didn't clock with me because I wasn't old enough to even know what was happening. Yeah. So anyway, my only frame of reference was being around people who were nice, who were sweet, who were kind, who treated me well. Yeah. Once I got to a point, and I don't quite remember where or when, but once I got to a point where I really realized what was happening behind the scenes, I immediately turned into that angry black man. And I was that guy for a while. It was a point where it was just, I was enraged, in order to keep it kind of tame. Until I realized that the whole drinking poison, waiting for them to die type of thing. Yeah. I don't want to do that to myself. That's detrimental to me. Yeah.
So this is how I feel, man. I feel like this, and going back to my previous comment, is that poison, right? Regardless, You
saying you're asking, is it poison?
No. I'm saying it is poison. It's harboring negative thoughts like that will destroy you, regardless. Absolutely. Even if you have this rage monster on side that's on reserve or you compartmentalize, it's going to destroy you. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And the whole idea is we have to release ourselves from that type of energy, that type of spirit, and that mindset. You know what I'm saying?
You're right.
We realize that this world is evil. At the end of the day, it's darkness. Yes. We know that, right? What do you do about it? You know what I mean? The best thing you can do is surround yourself with like-minded people that don't help you become that monster. You see what I'm saying? And that's and I look at, that's the reason I'm saying this transition period is so important for forgiveness. A lot of people look at forgiveness like it's weakness. A lot of times people look at forgiveness that you are weak and you should do this or you should do that. How about you mind your own business and allow me to process
Calm down, Rage Monster.
Yeah, right. Calm down. Take a step back, right? But that's the whole idea in your mind, because a lot of times people push your back against the wall and almost, and sometimes it seems like they want you to become this monster. Yeah. And in society, with a lot of race issues and different things like that, it's almost like they're poking at a sleeping bear. You know what I mean? And it's like, I see what you're doing, and I'm not going to allow you to do that. Yeah. You see what I mean? I'm going to, the spirit that God has given me, He has given me a mind that I can think. Think of whatever that's so lovely. You see what I'm saying? Exactly. Think on these things. Yeah. And then when you think positively, I'm telling you, it's an assurance and allows you, because what is peace? Peace is quiet assurance. And that's all I want in this life. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And if I become a rage monster in front of my kids, what is the message that I'm trying to send for the next generation? You know what I'm saying? So even with the forgiveness or whatnot, they might say, Dad, you should have done this. Whoa. What's the message I'm trying to send? It does not seem like it. In their mind, maybe it may look like weakness, but in you, you're trying to deliver a message and a lesson. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's the whole point. Like, I can't help what a group did 100 years ago, or whatever case may be. But I'm going to think about now time, this day and moving forward on what I can do, not only for myself, for them, and for people that look like me. You see what I'm saying? Because if we keep perpetuating a certain mindset, none of us getting better.
Absolutely.
You know,
that's a good point.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's kind of like how I look at it, man. I'm telling you, I this may sound funny, man, but maybe I shouldn't share it, man. I ain't gonna say
It's
it.
something we
Man.
got edited.
He said I ain't gonna say it.
It's funny because I had a
Good.
dream last night, man. I had a dream last night. I was in a mall, right? And I was holding up my trousers. Now this
This man said trousers.
The reason why I said that, right? I'm old school, man.
Right.
So check this out, man. So my pants was falling down, and I had I didn't have a belt on, right? I'm in the mall, in the middle of the mall, and I was on the way out, and a white lady came up to me. She said, "Can you help me find a way out?" I said, "Yeah, sure. I'm trying to find a way out too." So I went to there was a clerk or a cashier was in the store across from me. The lady went in there. She said, "I'll be right back." She went in the store, and I asked her, I said, "Do you know the quickest way out?" I asked the cashier, "Do you know," or the clerk, whatever, "Do you know the quickest way out?" She's like, "Yeah." John was a security guard. He was a white guy. He came on over. Now, keep in mind, this is the first time I have a actual dream. My dreams are typically I'm fighting zombies. They're like absolutely like abstract. They don't even make sense. And I'm telling you, man, my dreams are nuts. Right? I always have crazy dreams, man. Right? So I'm going back, like, going back to the dream. So this one, it was real surprising, right? So she asked John to come here with a security guard. And she said, "Can you help him out?" It's like, "Hey, sir, I'm trying to find a way out." He said, first thing, he said, "Are you alone?" He said this in my dream.
To
right?
you or to her?
To me.
Okay.
"Are you alone?" I was like, "No, I'm waiting on somebody. We both going to go out." And he saw me talking to him in the distance. He knew that she was a white woman. You know what I'm saying? He said, "That's not a good idea. It's not a good idea." I was like, "What are you talking about? It's not a good idea." He didn't get in detail, right? So I was like, I know where this is going. I understand what he's saying. So I'm up here holding my pants, right?
Yeah.
And the lady came out. She was like, "You ready?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, we can go follow John, right? So she started walking ahead, and he was telling me, he's like, this is not going to be a good idea for you. And I said, "What do you mean?" "So you mean to tell me I can't show love for people, regardless of what skin color they are, and helping them out, regardless." He kind of paused a little bit, and he started thinking about it. I said, "Listen," I said, "It's not about the skin color. It's about in the heart. It's about the heart in all of us." You know what I mean? I said, "I choose to follow my heart in helping this woman out, regardless." You see what I'm saying? Of who she is, whatever. He calmed down, and he saw him kind of back up. He got a little like shook up. Man, I was gonna give him a hug. Guess what? My pants fell down.
And did you wake up?
He was like, "Whoa."
I love that. Just took a left turn.
He was like, "Whoa." Right. I was like, hold on. I was like, "Oh,
Don't leave it to Ethan. No matter what his dream is, gonna end up a comedy.
Yep, I know.
But the killer part was, it was
the visual Ethan sitting there hugging
Right.
Around his ankles.
I was like, why, right?
Right.
So it was funny because it was a black woman and it was a couple, black couple sitting over there, and he was shook up, right? And he walked over there and she gave him a hug. A black woman gave him a hug, and the black guy, he got up and he shook my hand, and I woke up. You know what I'm saying?
Now, were your pants back up at this point?
Right. Because I had to turn around to everybody else. Like,
He was in the bed when he woke up like this. He was around his ankles.
But I think the dream was was telling me, number one, be prepared. You know what I'm saying? Have a belt, like, what I'm saying. Be prepared, number one, and you don't know how of a light you can be, how much of a light you can be in this dark world that we're living in.
Yeah, I agree.
And skin color isn't everything. I'm telling you, and if we keep focusing on that, we are not going to get anywhere. But we have to not only tell the other group and let them know stop looking at me in that certain way. But we got to believe in ourselves that this is not going well. You know what I'm saying? That's
the current mindset isn't working out for us.
Yeah, man, because we're not getting anywhere. Because like I said, this transition period that I'm going in right now is really a beating of myself to, regardless of an enemy that comes and smacks you in the face, turn the other cheek. Like when Jesus says that, man, turn the other cheek. Is what are you trying to gain in all of this, right? Is it your ego or not? Is it your ego being shook? Is it what's going on? Or are you really trying to be made in the image that God has truly made us in? You know what I'm saying? And that's where I'm trying to get. Hopefully I'm being clear.
Absolutely.
You know, so, and that's the reason why I'm really calming down, and that forgiveness, man, is crucial. It's crucial in our development. Yeah. It's an end result. It's an absolute. Yeah. It's a changing of one's mind, dude. Absolutely. I'm telling you. And it does have to go on both sides. But if it doesn't go on the other side, that's not your fault. It's not our fault.
Oh, I agree.
You know what I'm saying? There's nothing you could do about that. But make sure that we are able to go to bed and sleep well at night, you know what I'm saying, because of forgiveness.
Okay, man, that was really well said.
I love that. That's beautiful. Man.
I think you brought up the ego, and that's a huge thing, though.
Man.
Most of the things that we as humans can do in order to progress and grow and evolve within ourselves, it's going to require us to diminish or defeat that ego, bro. Yeah. That pride, that ego is a monster.
It has to go.
That's the worst part of ourselves. You know what I mean?
Man. It is.
Ego says it's about me. My pride makes it about me, when really it's about us. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right.
I really like that, man. That was wonderful what you said. My dreams are goofy too, man. So
my dreams, man.
After we get done, I'll share my most recent dream, which it was crazy.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I don't want to say it on camera. But
that's fine.
Yeah,
man. It's dreams mean something, right? You know what I mean. And like I said, and speaking of dreams, man. And we don't want to talk about dreams just yet. Let's transition, because this topic is real good about forgiveness and apology. Apologies, going back to apologies, being able to apologize takes strength too.
Sure.
Right.
Especially
you do it right.
Genuine.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Doing it the right way. Right.
I think that's easier too. That's easier. And not like easier like a cop-out easier. It's just it's easier that if you realize you've done something wrong to go and be genuine to that person and say, I apologize, I didn't mean to do it. And I think we're all at least the kind of people that if we come to somebody and say, I'm sincerely sorry for something I've done, I think they'll be able to let it go because they realize that, they'll see you being genuine about it.
Yeah.
But because I've had this debate a lot of times too, it's like, because forgiveness, and I think this is kind of related to the question that you had a few podcasts ago, like remission, is there repentance without remission?
I was thinking about that.
I was thinking about that too.
So forgiveness, it does not say you have to only forgive after somebody's asked for forgiveness.
That's right.
It's sometimes you have to find it in your heart to let that go, to forgive somebody, even if they haven't asked for it. And that's that ego part. Like, what am I letting them off the hook for? They never apologized to me. They never said they were sorry. They never said they didn't mean to do it. Why would I forgive them because for your own benefit? Look at how worked up you get. Look at how it's affecting your mindset right now as you're thinking about that. You want to carry that around with you all the time.
Right.
So they haven't asked you to forgive them, but do yourself the favor and allow you to get into that stage of forgiveness even though they haven't asked for it. You know what I mean? Maybe they'll come ask for it later. They might never realize what they did wrong or what they did to hurt you. But do you want to carry that around with you for the rest of your life? And that's what I think. And again, it comes back to, same situation of just being in America. We have to figure out ways to put that baggage down and figure out what's ahead of us. And that's why I really like too the way you like your approach to your art, because you mentioned to me a while ago, like a lot of your art focuses on Black love. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even we talked about like hip hop and stuff like that a couple, some months ago probably at this point, but just focusing on that positive part, focusing on those things that are needed to help us grow and that are going to be important and going to be the foundations of where do we see ourselves, where do we want to be.
That's imperative.
And building back up the family structure, which again, nobody that's alive today were the people that were a part of this government movement, but there was a plan and an intentional effort to destroy our family structure.
Right.
Now, shame on us for the part that we took in that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But there was a concerted effort, and it was an effort that was backed by the resources of an entire country. A single community or a minority group in that community is not going to be able to withstand that and be effective in it, right? Exactly. So it's not that you can't stand in the place of a waterfall and stop the waterfall. You're going to get swept away.
Yeah.
But get out of, once it sweeps you away and you're going down that river, find your way over to the shore and get out the water, right? So I think we're in that place now. Okay, the effects are what they are. We've had some part to play in it. You know what I mean? It's not. It's worse because there was things that were done, and then there were things that we did to exacerbate it, right? But focusing back on what is the foundational structure, you don't necessarily need convincing that the story happened, because I got a lot of stuff swirling in my mind right now, so forgive me because I'm kind of rambling.
No, man, it's good to hear you talk. I mean,
welcome to the podcast.
No, seriously, I enjoy it. I'm being honest.
It's good to have you on the show, man.
Yeah, man, welcome to the show. No, but I enjoy it, man. You talk all you want.
Can't stand y'all.
Nah, for real.
We're talking about the movie Don't Look Up. If we don't talk, if we didn't keep, because I'm thinking about what you were saying too. People, if a story like that, like Emmett Till, wasn't told, eventually people are going to start saying that was a myth that never happened.
That's crazy.
It did happen.
That's true.
It's true.
Right?
That's unfortunate. Yeah, man.
It did happen.
We got pictures and everything.
Yeah, right. People that deny that there is a problem, I think, need to see it to have their consciousness awoken that this is a real thing. I don't need to see it, right?
Right.
But at the same time, for the people that are putting their Hollywood resources into getting this film made, I want to support it, and I'm trying to figure out, is there a way I can support it without me going to see it, because I know my mindset. I'm not going to be in a good mindset leaving that. So I know the story. If I have it told to me again, I know where I'm gonna what headspace I'm gonna be in after that.
Yeah,
I would love to support them potentially. Right. I'd love to support them because I think that we have to keep the story alive. That this is what happened, as a reminder of what not to go back to, not to keep anger and frustration and pain refreshed, but to remember that it got this bad. Yeah, let's make sure we don't let it get this bad again. You know what I mean? I agree. So I am struggling with the practical aspect of supporting them, knowing that I can't go sit in the seat. I'm working on becoming in the right mindset where I can go sit.
So I got a question for you. Yeah. Do you think, and it's just a question, do you think that sometimes when movies, though I do believe that the history need to be told in the story, history does not need to be washed out, right? In the story, right? Do you think that sometimes people that are given the green light for some of these stories, do you think they have the right agenda involved?
That's
you know what I'm saying?
Double-edged sword.
That's a slippery slope. That's what I'm saying.
I think that the story needs to be told, but if the anger that I'm going to feel going in and watching that is going to plant that seed and again be the thing that I rage over so much that I'm shortening my lifespan, it's a double-edged sword, right?
But then again, you had movies that came out like New Jack City, Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, or whatever the case may be, that we all went to see in some form or fashion, right? And it gave a negative. And I'm glad you brought that up. And it's interesting, ain't it?
It is, right? And I think that part of our Black love story, part of the vision of where we're supposed to be, is I need to be at the point where I get as angry about the killings that were happening in that movie as I did with Emmett Till. Right? Yes. I need to be as angry, and this goes out to any African American in this country. Our anger for what we're doing to ourselves needs to rival.
That's real. Yeah.
Our anger about what's happening to us from outside of our community as well. And I think that until we get to that point, we're not going to have our cities heal the way they need to. You know what I mean? I agree. And we have to get to the point where we're sick of it. And it's easy to focus on somebody else doing that to you, but you have to. And again, I want to be clear, especially with Kanye, right? Yeah. With your boy right now.
Yeah.
Your boy.
Ain't mine. But I'm not one of the people that say that I'm not going to the New Jack City, the Boys in the Hood, those kind of situations as, okay, but you got, we're worried about cops killing us and everything else. Oh, but what about this? It's not a distraction tactic. Right. I'm saying that we have to be able We have to make ourselves capable to kind of be able to fight this battle on multiple fronts. Yes, there's a battle to be fought with the fact that they take our tax money and use that tax money to pay people to execute us and never hold them accountable. That's a problem. I'm not going to say that, I'm not going to take that problem and say, oh, no, we can't talk about this because you still got this as a distraction. And I'm not going to say that I have to pick and choose which one I'm going to go and address, right? We're aware enough, we're capable enough, we're smart enough to be able to say, this is a problem and that's a problem.
Right.
And I can go and address both problems and deal with both issues. I'm not so single track mind that I can only have the capacity to focus on one thing. We have multiple problems. Let's address all those problems, right? Don't use anything as an excuse to basically not, to say that we're distracted on something. So
Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
no, that was it. That was it.
So I want to go back. First of all, that was very well said. I agree with you. That's one of the biggest things that we hear about. Well, what about the black on black? Yeah, well, that's a problem as well.
Yeah.
But I do want to go back to actually when you were saying apologizing and forgiveness. We were talking about pride and ego.
Right.
And then, is it just me? And if it is not just me, why does it seem like it's easier to subdue my pride or my ego when it comes to offering an apology, even a sincere apology, versus offering someone forgiveness?
Because ego is about defending the defending yourself. Ego is telling you that you stand apart and separated from somebody else, and that nobody's going to look out for you the way you will.
Right, but then apologizing has to take some part of my ego too.
That's you realizing that I've caused harm to somebody else, and I wasn't harmed. My ego, my individual is not being threatened. I wasn't threatened to somebody else. Yeah. And if you have a good head on your shoulders and you realize I don't want to be the person that causes hurt, and if I did this person hurt, it's easier to humble yourself if you were the offender versus humbling yourself to accept an apology if you were the offended. To me, that's what I think it is. Ego is you feel like I have to protect, this, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's once again, like what y'all talking about right here is very crucial conversation that we should have. Because every man is right in their own eyes, right? And that's the reason why you have to remove and purge yourself. You got to really remove yourself out of the situation, which is so hard to do, man. It is so hard to do. But you got to, so there's a, I'm going to just go back to automotive. There's an automotive tool that we use. It's called success, right? It's sort, you know what I mean? Sort, simplify, sanitize, standardize, and sustain.
Oh, 6S.
Yeah.
I thought you said success.
But that's what we say, success. At the end, they call it success, which is success.
Okay.
That's what they call it, right?
Gotcha.
The sixth one is safety.
Okay.
Right? And I'm always looking at the part of safety first, right? In anything that we do when it comes with our conversation or whatnot, even if someone else tries to destroy you in your life, I'm getting it to this point where I'm putting my life in the hands of our Creator that is greater than all. And that's how I look at all. Whatever comes to me, I'm going to make sure that I put my mind and my thought and my actions above every situation, so I'm not the one that gets the glory in it. You understand what I'm saying? And I know that sounds weird. I know that sounds opposite. But I think that's the way. I think that's the way the mind of Christ operates. I think that's the way Jesus did. He put his body in harm's way. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? In order to he not only set a tone. You know what I mean? But people still talk about him 2,000 years later. You see what I'm saying? That means that what he did was impactful. You either hate him or you love him. You know what I'm saying? That's the kind of thing. Not for me, because I don't really care about having a legacy like that. I really don't. I really don't. I just want to live the life that I can exemplify that this man lived. And if I can be an example for my children, for y'all, and anybody else, I'm good.
That's a legacy, though.
If that's a legacy, if you say that, that's fine. Because to me, when I think about a legacy, I think about ego. That's how I feel. And I could be.
No.
Do that make sense?
Some people,
valid.
You know what I'm saying? Like if I leave my legacy,
yeah.
I think about ego. It's not about that. It's like, let me do the time that I have given, do the best, live healthy, be healthy as much. You know what I'm saying? Live life.
So you want to be remembered for what was intended, like
Well,
for your end. Yeah.
That's what I love, though. You're going to be remembered for something.
Yeah,
There is going to be a legacy.
Exactly.
The question is, what do you want that to be?
That's
and how much work
exactly
are you going to put into when I'm gone? You want your actions to speak for you, and not somebody, people's good memories of you, and not something.
Right.
So
Right.
It's going. There's a legacy that's going to be left. What do you want to do?
That's important to me.
Exactly.
That part right there,
Yeah.
like, because I don't fear like death or anything, but it's like I just want to be remembered in the way that I intended.
Right.
Like it's not going to be any blemishes on my name. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Well, the reason why I say that is if God knows me, that's all that matters, right? And of course, if I go and you guys still thinking about me or whatnot, that's cool. You know what I'm saying? I think that's cool.
Yeah.
But I know if I made myself an example in the eyes of our Creator, I think that means something. You know what I'm saying? I think that really means something. Because this is what I'm saying. Like, listen, I'm gonna just say a couple of scriptures, right? Or just an excerpts, right? When Jesus went and got baptized, right? A voice spoke and said, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I'm well pleased," right? He was on the Mount of Transfiguration, right? The voice said, "This is my beloved Son, hear ye him." He went to the cross, died, resurrected. This is my beloved Son, this day have I begotten thee. Those testimonies to me are so important to me, it's not even funny. If that happened to Jesus, I know it can happen to me. End of story. Or else, why would I even read the Bible if it can't happen to me? You know what I'm saying? What's the use of it? You see? So exemplifying what this man and many, many others that I read in the scripture done when they went through pain, they went through trials, struggles, persecutions, or whatever, they still kept their integrity. And I think that speaks volumes to me. If I can do that. Now if I keep allowing certain communications and informations to deter me or distract me, I like that what you said about the distractions or whatnot. When you talk about that distraction, then how can I ever achieve that goal of having that Christ mind? You know what I'm saying? And so, or can I bring that Christ mind in that situation? And that's the whole idea. You know what I mean? And I think that's the key. I think that is the key, and that's where my transition is trying to get to. Am I there yet? No. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, is that rage monster still there? Yeah. You know what I mean? Is there something? I know that it's there, and I'm just not going to feed it. I will not feed it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I will not. I'm going to let it starve. Yeah. I'm going to starve that beast because he does not need to come up.
Starve it, man.
Starve it, man.
So it sounds
crazy.
Like what you're saying is for you to feel like your life has been as valuable as you'd like it to be. The validation of God is obviously top of mind. That's the top of the list, right? So, but I lost my train of thought.
It'll come back to it in a couple minutes.
Yeah. Right. That's how it always do.
Because so going back to your original thought of the apologies and forgiveness, man, I think that plays plays a key role in our development and our maturity. You know what I'm saying? I think it really does, man.
And there's a lot that you're just going to have to look past, man. Ultimately.
Yeah, man.
Sure.
I mean, I find myself getting agitated by things that people probably don't even notice. You know what I'm saying? But, because like we were talking about film again, I have a strong problem with entities, no matter how much work they put into it, making profit off of Black trauma. And I feel like that people don't really notice it.
It's Hollywood,
bro. But it's Hollywood. I mean, exactly. But it feeds into the human, like the psyche of things.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So it's a two-edged sword again. You don't want to forget these things that really happen.
Right.
Same time, it's like we don't want to keep being reminded all the time. Yeah. Like it's like 1,000 projects out there of Black trauma, man, Black pain. I mean, one of the most offensive ones I've seen in recent times is them on I think it's them or they on Prime. It's a series.
They/them. It's the one about the pronouns.
No, not that one.
Oh.
No, not that one.
You're talking about the horror. You're talking about the
horror one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I never see. I wanted to watch that.
It's hard, man. A lot of this stuff really doesn't bother me, but that bothers me particularly because they layered it with they made racism a horror film, pretty much.
That was one with the little girl.
The little girl. It's on a different level from
I haven't seen that yet.
yeah, it's on a different level from like Get Out.
Get Out. Mm-hmm.
Get Out did what it was supposed to do. It was very entertaining, very effective. This went a lot deeper with how horrific racism is to us. Then on top of that, it had a supernatural horror that terrorizes black family. So it was twofold.
Wow.
But it really, to me, heightened the entertainment in the industry of just black trauma. It's an industry in and of itself. It's an entire genre outside of horror, outside of black cinema. There is a genre that is black trauma, and these entities, these powers that be, they profit off of it tremendously. We're all complicit with it because we go see these films. You know, all of it, Boys in the Hood, all that stuff. We're complicit. But these particular films that are coming out in recent times really capitalize on. We're really going to drive home what has happened here. And we're going to make money off of it. And everybody's going to come see it and enjoy it, laugh, cry, whatever. But the bottom line is we're making money off of it. And then if you, a black filmmaker, want to come to me talking about Mansa Musa, one of the richest man that ever lived, you want to make a film about that, we're not going to make that. You know, but if I'm Quentin Tarantino, I can make Django Unchained and probably get good backing for it. Without, you know, I get agitated about stuff like that. Just, you know what I'm saying? You know, everybody like, you know, people get mad at different things, but like for me,
standards, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, everything's a double standard, you know. But then we get told we're angry all the time. It's like, what do you? You know what I'm saying? But I focus on what is good, though. I honestly do.
Yeah.
I filter out all of that. I can turn a blind eye to that and just really focus on my gifts or relationships, things like that, and just cut through all the mud, man, and just say, okay, these are the good things that I'm going to focus on. It's a daily choice. So.
And it's difficult to do because there's a lot of blaxploitation still in television in 2022.
Yes.
A lot of.
Yes.
And most of what you see on BET is probably still that to a degree. It's a double-edged sword, but it's a double-edged sword because of a condition that we're not willing to change as a people yet.
I agree.
It's a double-edged sword because we're product and consumer.
Right.
It's a double-edged sword because you want to be happy for, in order to get past the slave mentality, the crabs in the barrel, you want to be happy for the black people that have made it onto TV, onto these shows, and have found some measure of success with that. Right. You're happy for them. I'm glad that they have their life enriched by finding jobs on television on a regular basis and getting that money. Happy for them. I'm sure that's done their family well, their community well, and everything else.
Right.
But you also have to consider us, again, as from the consumer standpoint, you're an empty vessel.
Yeah.
And again, that metaphysical stuff we don't really think about as everyday life, but it's the truth. You're an empty cup.
Yeah.
And what you look at, what you listen to, what you think about is what you're pouring into your cup all day long. So if we're pouring in those and media is, we talked about this before too, media is a very, very powerful programming tool.
It is.
And if I let that programming that I consume all the time be my trauma,
bro,
I'm damaging myself in the process.
It's defining realities.
It is.
It's defining realities.
So we need more, and I want you to kind of, I want you to like to make sure you mention like your business when this is done, because we need creators like you that are creating positive black content. And we need a paradigm shift in our mind to be appreciative of it and consume and divert our resources towards that. Because as long as we're feeding into that system, I'm glad that black people some families are being lifted up by that, but that's a handful of people at the expense of the trauma that's happening to the community. It'd be perfect if we have people that are putting out positive content and our people in a mindset to only consume that positive content that shows us in the right light, that pushes us past the trauma, and that focuses on building us back up. Those are the two things that have to happen at the same time. If we only have one and not the other, it's going to be incomplete.
It'll never be complete.
While there's ratchet content and people that want to consume ratchet, there's going to be people that are going to lean that way, right? So we got to reprogram our mindset to not appreciate the ratchet and not to put our finances there, but put it behind people that are putting out positive media, positive stories about black love and about the things that we want to be showing for ourselves. You know what I mean? The things that we want to be putting into our vessel instead of letting everybody else come in and pouring whatever negativity and trauma that they're putting into it.
That's very powerful, man. I appreciate that, bro. Because, it's a lot. And it just all comes back to when you talk about apologizing and forgiving it's a lot that happens. We don't get apologies for all day, every day. I mean, I can walk down the street at any point, any given time, certain areas, and I get looked up and down. Absolutely. I get frowned upon. Absolutely. People look me in my face and frown at me. And I'm like, I'm doing nothing. Like, my thing is, you have a problem with me, just leave me alone. Like, I beg of whoever has a problem with certain groups and demographics or whatever, just leave them alone. They'll be fine. But there's always this thing.
Can I put one possible alternative path out there too, though? If you have a group that you don't like, go spend some time with that group.
Exactly. Thank you.
9 times out of 10, you are carrying, and again, I'm saying this from my own mentality and the way that, some of the things we were raised in. 9 times out of 10,
experience.
It's lack of experience and a lack of exposure.
Exactly.
So if you hate a group and it's a group that you've been around, I understand, do your thing, whatever, right? Maybe don't always take it as the worst possible representatives represent the whole group either. Right. But if you are hating somebody that you've never spent any time around, try to go spend time around that group, right? Exactly. Because you're probably going to learn that the biases you picked up from somebody else were their biases. And if you want to have your life shaped after, cookie cutter off of everybody else's that, came before you, and you want to find yourself a clone of the same kind of mentality, by all means have at it. But if you think for yourself, if you want to be a free-minded individual and accountable for your own actions, your own path, and you haven't had that exposure, but somebody told you hate this group or this group is your enemy, then you go spend time with them, figure out if it's true. Because I guarantee you, and again, if we could have a white supremacist come sit down here with us, and if they were to talk to us long enough, we're not the stereotype. We're not the ones that's going to be up here like you got to check for your wallet when you go and all that kind of stuff. Over time, you'd realize, okay, this group of people isn't what I was told they were. Right. So yes, leave them alone if you're not willing to let your mind expand. But if you find it in your heart I don't want to appeal to the heart. I want to ask a question. If you haven't had exposure to that group, if you're following after what somebody told you to think or somebody told you to expect, and you don't have that experience for yourself, think for yourself. Don't be a sheep for a second. Think for yourself, and then go sit and spend time with that group and see if what you were told was true. And don't find the worst possible representatives.
Right. That's the key.
Go to the worst part of, whatever. You know what I mean? Go find somebody that maybe has a chance of contradicting that stereotype, and you realize the stereotype doesn't apply to everybody. You know what I mean? So,
and definitely take ownership that every group has their bad apples.
Absolutely, every group.
Yeah,
does.
every group does. So, I think that's the thing that media is handling irresponsibly among other outlets. It's always trying to highlight a particular group. Yes. That has all these bad apples.
Yes.
On.
Yes. But the fact you said everybody has them.
Everybody has them. Everybody, probably has a Jeffrey Dahmer.
For sure.
But what did Jeffrey Dahmer look like?
Right.
See what I'm saying? And so we don't get to talk about that stuff enough. What we do get to see is black trauma. We see it in film. We see it in the news. We see documentaries. Right. We have books on it. Right. It's all over social media. It's in the rap videos, right? Right. And so my thing is, I just want to be in a place, and I always am, because what I really do is what I know about our people is, first of all, we are resilient. Right. We father our children. Right. We take care of our women. Right. But they will have you think otherwise. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. And so I think it is always imperative of us to, and it's our responsibility to keep these conversations up, particularly as black men.
For sure.
Because then what you do is you sow into other black men, other young black men, and then they don't have to carry that anger and that frustration, then finding themselves apologizing for situations that, in some instances, weren't their fault. Right. You get exposed to certain things that, it wasn't your fault that you had to end up feeling that way. And so I think it just all roads leads back to all of us have to be responsible for how we're moving, and then what we contribute, and then that kind of influences what we'll get back. For sure. So I don't use the word karma, but that's kind of the idea.
I understand. I understand. Yeah. And I think, too, is another question that has to be asked is, would you, because like you said, every group has its bad apples. So you have to ask a person that comes from every group, would you want the worst possible representation from you being the one that gets put on TV every night as the standard for you?
Right. Exactly.
And if you can relate to, no, I don't want the worst possible people out of my group to represent me or to be the face of my group, then you can understand how we feel. Because that was absolutely what was done. It's documented. That was the point of what was done when the news direction changed in the 60s. It was for that specific point. Throw drugs into the community and then go parade them on television every night being arrested for the drugs we dumped into the community. So being judged by the worst possible representatives of your group is difficult. And if you could understand how that might feel, think about yourself, whatever group you come from, and what it might be like to be judged from the worst possible representatives from that group, that's what's been done to our community. So don't think that everybody is going to fit that stereotype of the worst thing that you've seen. And I realize reaching out to people by compassion is not going to always be an effective means. And that's why I'm saying, think about yourself, whatever group you come from, and have that internal dialogue with yourself. If I think about what, whatever, I'm sure it's a variety of backgrounds, think about what background you come from in the worst possible representation. And think of, would you want to be judged by that? And would you want to have everybody treat you based on the way that they see their worst possible representation? And if you can relate to that for yourself, you can understand that other people have been subject to that, and not everybody's going to fit the bill that you expect them to.
Exactly.
Right? So
yeah, that sums it up. I mean, I think that's
really good.
Yeah. So, Mike, you have any other thoughts, man? Because you be bringing it, man. You be bringing the ideas, bro.
I know.
I'm thinking right now about a person who is able to create peace within themselves or receive peace for themselves, whether or not they are easily offended or offended at all. So if my desire is to seek peace, is it really easier for me to, or I'm sorry, is it really more difficult for me to find things that offend me? You know what I mean? Because I'm thinking about what you guys are talking about, and I'm thinking about how important it is for me to have peace within myself.
It's vital.
And with the racial manipulation that we experience in this country through our social media, social media, and regular entertainment style media,
Right.
there are a lot of things that could be potentially offensive to a person of color, a black man. I'm not even going to generalize, to a black man. But I don't have to let it offend me.
Right, I agree.
I can be aware of it. I can even make moves to correct it.
Yeah.
But I don't have to let it offend me because I want to be a person that is a person of peace.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't get offended by so much the content of things. I think I'm more offended by the constant audacity of a group or an individual to feel that they just have the right to do that. And then if I respond, then I get thrown in jail. And I'm talking about just respond.
Right.
Not any violence. But if I just respond, which I have a right to do, because I'm a very peaceful person. I don't have high blood pressure or anything.
Sure.
You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
But the thing is I'm offended by audacity.
Okay.
Constant audacity or entitlement.
Okay.
I'm offended by that. And that agitates me. So the projects that are birthed from that, whatever it is, whatever systems are there, that's all there. I understand that. But I think for me it's just that waking up just thinking that somebody thinks that they have the audacity constantly to affect my personal life. Yeah. That's where I be that way.
And no, I'm not coming for you because I'm definitely bothered, especially that entitlement that you mentioned. That's very high on my list.
That's what I'm saying.
That's really high on my list.
You know, the thing is just like what. Oh, you go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I'm just playing.
You're going first. I'm just playing. Go ahead, bro.
No. You know, the whole point is transparency, right? Like when we have these conversations, like and what you're talking about there is where I'm working at. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say Emmett Till in these events, Martin Luther King getting shot, Malcolm X getting killed. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
You know, right when you see Malcolm X starting to really make some moves, you see what I'm saying, and changing. I mean, the man was, when he speaks, you really felt what he was talking about to black people.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like you really did.
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
And the thing is, when he was taken out by his own people, you know what I'm saying? That's the thing where you have to almost take a step back and say what's really going on here. You know what I mean? What's really, really going on? And so, where am I going with that? I was just thinking about, like, in those cases when you come into a knowledge of something and information and the truth of things, what are you becoming then? You know what I mean? Am I going to allow that to affect me or us or whatever? Or are we going to move forward and we're going to drop those seeds and those nuggets to the next person, you know, or, you know, the next child or next generation or whatever the case. Because I want to be. Okay, let me take. I keep saying I think I've been talking about myself for the last.
No, you good. You good.
Forgiveness and apologies are a personal experience.
It really is, because I'm not sure if we look in the mirror enough. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of what I'm saying. It's like, are we? For sure. And G, you hit the nail right on the head. Is about exposure. When you said that is key, man. Yeah. Sit down with other groups and talk. Right. Mm-hmm. Talk. Sit down and talk. And the thing is, I think that we've already have these preconceived ideas of how everybody in these groups think and do. Right. You know, it's not 100% all the way. All of them don't think like that. And because I surely don't want everybody, like you said, that we're black men, we take care of our family, we love our wives, we do what we're supposed to do. Stop looking at me like I'm a criminal. Yeah. You know, but I know that everybody don't look at me like a criminal because I work with people of the other color, you know what I'm saying, that know the kind of person I am. Right. You know what I'm saying? So what do you do about that? Right? You know, so that's kind of things, going back to what you're saying, is being a man of peace and not allowing things to offend you. Mm-hmm. If people are offended of you, let them be offended. You know what I'm saying? I can't. It's nothing I can do or say that will cause people to think of me differently sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
But you're no longer talking about your actions being offensive. You're talking about somebody just taking offense at you in general.
Yeah, and there's nothing you can do about that. Okay. It's absolutely nothing you can do. So am I going to move forward in my life to make sure I'm going to demand them to look at me? You can't do that. I mean, I demand you to respect me. No, man, listen, it's
It's funny that we grew up talking about commanding and demanding respect and all that kind of stuff. That stuff we were taught. Yeah. In reality, you can't demand someone to respect you. You have to respect is earned.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's kind of what I was just. Go ahead, bro. Yeah. You hit the nail right on the head.
Yeah. No. What I was saying before though is that I absolutely don't feel like I've reached a point of having such peace that nothing offends me. I want to get there. Yeah, that's kind of the thought that I was having. What's the process? In my mind, that's what I was going over. What is the process to get from where I stand today to being a person that has such peace that things will no longer affect me in the same way? Yeah. Of course, there's the human experience, especially of a black man in this country. I keep generalizing, and I want to be specific for a reason, especially with this video. The experience of a black man in this country, from its inception all the way up until today, is a traumatic one in a lot of different ways. In the way that we are approached at work, at school, the way that we've been, and we can go on and on and on. I mean, it's a million different ways that we can cry, woe is me, whether it's valid or not, right?
Right.
I want to get to a point where I'm aware of all of those things. Yeah. I do what I can to affect change within my community, but I also, at the same time, want to reach a point where it doesn't keep me up at night.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
I want it to be something where it doesn't affect how I treat my friends and my family. I want it to be something where it doesn't affect how I treat people of opposite or other races. You know what I mean?
Right.
I want to be able to treat everyone with love and with respect, and with the scripture says, love hopeth all things. I want to treat people in the hopes that everybody will respond with the same love that I give out.
Right.
I want to get to that place, and that's kind of the goal that I'm. Even the whole reason why I brought up the topic of apologies and forgiveness and being a gentle person is pushing towards that exact end. You know what I mean?
I think if we look at how, I'm just taking the example of Jesus, how he accomplished that, I think was by compassion. You heard the saying before, hurt people.
Sure.
Right? And when you see people that would do something offensive towards you, it's either in response to something that's been done traumatic to them, or because they find themselves, like we all do, placed into a melting pot where groupthink is encouraged, and they haven't thought enough for themselves. So I think that the compassion to not be offended is by looking at that person as their reaction, their way of thinking is a cry for help. And you have access to, you have the words to bring them to a message of love that would help heal them. Mm-hmm. And I think that for me anyway is how I have to look at it in order to not have rage, be the response. You know what I mean? Is looking at them as, okay, this person is this mentality they have is a cry for help. Mm-hmm. Even if they don't want that help from me, it's something that they've been traumatized, they've been hurt by, you know what I mean? Or they've been told that their acceptance into the group that they find themselves with is because it is by only, thinking the same way everybody else does, right? Because I think very few people that have actually have a hatred for a group based on experience, you're probably not going to be able to affect that. And if they have it by experience, it might have been for some good reason. Mm-hmm. But I think that if they were to experience somebody else as a part of that group that doesn't have that same mentality, it still would kind of break the spell. Mm-hmm. But I think you have to look at people as, same again what Jesus said, very realistically, forgive them for they know not what they do. Sure. They really did not, look at him as a person. They really looked at him. They were affected by the group thing, by the sheeple mindset, that he was really a traitor and a blasphemer. Yeah. That's what they saw him as. They didn't see him for what he was, right? Sure. So they did what they did, and they thought they were right. And some people later on realized, okay, no, that was a mistake. But the work had already been done at that point, right? So I think he really recognized they just don't know what they're doing. They don't know why they think the way they do. And that's another, kind of pet project of mine that you all know about, why I feel like it's important to kind of vocalize some things about what love really is. Yeah. Because I think that we've been lied to about it, and I think we've been made to follow something that hides that from us. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why he knew, forgive them for they don't know what they do. When you look at what's influenced them, when you look at where their thought process comes from, there's no way they weren't going to turn out like this. There's no other response they could have possibly had but what they did because of what they come from. Mm-hmm. And his compassion on them was, I want them to get better. Let them do what they're going to do to me, get it out their system, and realize I'm still not going to rebuke them. I'm still not going to chastise them, and let that weigh on their hearts enough to make them think about it again. And that's what I think was the whole purpose of what he was doing. And why I think we still haven't got it, right? Because we still carry around that hatred of other groups because you find a difference in somebody else. That's, I think, exactly one of the things he came to fight against. You know what I mean? And we don't realize that that's serpent thinking. That's not godly thinking. Right. We're told that it is. That's serpent thinking. And we have to be able to realize. And another, I'm going to shut up.
No, you fine. Please go ahead.
Another thing I find compassion in with people is, I really don't think it's in the hearts of most people to be the evil that we see being manifest and just the way the world is right now. I don't think that's most people.
I agree with you.
I think, again, a lot of it is they're too fearful of being on the outskirts, and they think that's what the norm is, and they go along for the ride.
Right.
I think if you were to get some of these people in a room or alone to kind of really feel them out, that's not what their mindset would be.
Yeah, you see evidence of that all the time.
Yeah. You see the kind of pollution that's happening in the planet. And are the people that are causing it, if you were to go look at their homes, they don't have trash piles on the back of their yard. You know what I mean? They know that's not the right mentality to have. It's either that it's hidden from them, it's obfuscated in some way, or they've been brainwashed to think some other way that, it's not a problem, or to not recognize what the issue is. I think it's more, the problem is more at the top, and it's the fact that everybody else underneath them doesn't buck against the system and maintain a standard of what's right. That's the problem. I think the problem is a lack of confidence and courage to stand up against that, and not so much that the whole world is just evil.
Right. I love the fact that on almost every episode that we've recorded so far, almost every episode, we have circled back to the pure concept of independent thought in some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
It's so critical.
Yes, it is.
It's so critical to be able to think for yourself, to be able to move away from groupthink, to be able to move away from a herded mindset. You know what I mean? Because that's the core of so many of the mistakes that mankind is and has made.
Yes,
you know what I mean? Yeah. Or is making and has made.
Mob mentality.
And that groupthink, I think, adds to the metaphysical.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you can escape that, you can remove a lot of the stresses. And that goes for, certain upbringings that we've had.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That because a lot of times if you go through your entire life and you're not able to be yourself, I think that in and of itself is just a slow death.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yep.
I don't know if that does, like you said, that's a good point. I mean, does that bring the cancers? You know what I'm saying? And it, with that thinking, and I'm not going to get in detail because we talk about it about church. No, I won't get into that. But that mentality, like being set up in certain establishments, if you know what I mean, does that perpetuate or does that instill
Go ahead.
the cancers, the tumors, or start that process?
I think it does. I think it enforces. Yeah, that and the fried chicken.
You said what? That and the fried chicken. So look at the fruit.
Yeah.
You know a tree by the fruit that it bears.
Yeah.
Look at the quality of life.
I agree.
Yeah.
That a lot of people that we have come up around are experiencing. The quality of life is not there.
Yeah. I agree 100%.
Because it's fear-based tactics.
Yeah.
It's anger. It's ignorance. It's groupthink. It's being herded. It's so many things. We can go down the list and probably talk about 20, 30 different separate things.
I know. It's people that don't understand that productive change is a good thing. It's not bad.
Right. Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? It's people that actually think that just the word change is a cuss word.
Yeah, it is.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like you have to change. You have to evolve in order to just, I mean, why are we here? You know what I'm saying? Why would you want to spend 80, 70, 80 years, 90 years on this planet and never really fulfill your purpose? And then you come up in certain establishments where you get taught about purpose, finding your purpose. But then you're not allowed to find your purpose.
Yeah. It's like, what's going on here?
It's like, what's going on? That's traumatic. Now I'm getting poisoned, traumatic thoughts, you know.
That is traumatic. Yeah, traumatic. It is.
That's a new word.
Right. Hey, we got to keep a counter up for even on the videos.
Yeah, the new word.
The 9011 and
right. He brought that back up again.
Yeah.
Zoology.
We got to have
zoology, right?
One for G.
You got to put a whiteboard up.
Right.
Oh man, we should.
And it just
right.
Words invented.
So
man,
I'll say it.
My IQ is going down, Lord.
I'll say it.
G's gonna fall on the sword for us, guys.
Yeah, I will.
That's funny.
I've pretty much, I know my mindset has already put me at odds with something. So I'm gonna say with my disclaimer the same as I did last time, right? These are my thoughts. These are not their thoughts. Don't blame them for it. They're not. We don't talk about this stuff. We don't plan for it ahead of time. So this is me off the cuff. If you have to go to an institution that requires self-flagellation and you to devalue yourself in order to be accepted, you should question it. If you really feel like trash and they tell you you have to consider yourself as trash, then that's on you. But if you don't feel like you're trash and they tell you have to consider yourself as trash before you can have any value, there's a problem. So that in itself is traumatic thinking. If my acceptance in the group is based on me telling and admitting to myself how bad I am, how helpless I am, how poor I am, how evil I am, and everything else, if you accept all those things, again, you're this empty glass. And if I'm letting all these people pour all these negative thoughts about myself into that cup, you're going to get what you pay for. So you have to think for yourself. And again, my thoughts, not theirs. But yes, the way that we're brought up in the institution we have to come into in order to find God, that you have to be considered yourself trash first, I think is a problem. Nobody else is saying that. I'm saying it. It's a problem. You have to find value for yourself. You have to be convinced that you are worth something. And do you think our Creator makes trash? Let me ask it to you that way.
God don't make no junk.
If God don't make no junk and you are what God has made, then you got to really rethink if somebody's telling you that you're garbage and that you're trash and that you're worthless and that you're all these other things we're forced to accept about ourselves. It's no coincidence that we have the health issues that we do, right, in that group. Because if I have to have all those negative thoughts about myself just to be counted, just to be accepted, just to be able to even come in the building and not be kicked out, there's probably going to be a problem there. You're probably going to carry some kind of trauma out of there. And if you are willing to take that trauma, you think that the reward you're going to get on the other side of that trauma is worth it, then that's all on you. But you probably would want to consider if there's a better way, because you carrying all that trauma and all that negativity around for how you think about yourself is going to come back on you in some way. But that's your choice. That's your decision. So my thoughts, again, not theirs, but that's just the reality of things we come into. And yeah.
Well, what you're actually saying is Matthew 5 is the Beatitudes. You know what I mean?
People don't see it as that.
But people
though, right?
don't see
people
it.
Think that
you understand what I'm saying?
People think it's reinforcing the same thing that it was.
It's
not.
It's not. Jesus
not.
is really, really breaking down some liberty there. He really is. You know, he's telling them about what it is to be blessed, right? You know, and I think that's the key. Because at the end of, I think, verse 10 or 11, correct me if I'm wrong, I can put it on the screen. He says that you are a city on a hill. You are the light of the world. You see what I'm saying? So how in the world is Jesus 2,000 years is going to explain to people that's strangers that you are lights of the world? But then when we go to our establishments and whatnot, man, we're the filth of the earth.
You see, the wretched man that I am. He saved a wretch like me.
Yeah. Well, but I would say,
I mean, we just constantly beat ourselves up, though.
But if you've done some dirt, I mean, you got to be honest.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. You know what I'm saying?
But I'm just saying,
but
it's a mentality that's forced upon some, though.
No, understood.
Some actually are. And some dudes come up from the club like, yeah, look at these girls. Come to church, the next morning. But it's like,
I know, that's true.
But then some people, some little kid is, crying at the altar talking about, I'm a wretch, oh God. It's like, I know. But they don't even know what they're talking about.
Yes.
And then they grow up like that.
That's traumatizing, man. And then guess what? You already dropped that seed, like you said. The seed is already.
They think they're gonna burn in hell, and they ain't even done nothing.
So. Yeah. So
which also doesn't exist. Point for another podcast.
Yeah, man, I love this, man.
I know, man.
I've enjoyed listening to G today, bro. Yeah. We're gonna cherish this, guys. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding.
Let's eat.
Yeah, man, let's do it, man. Yeah, let's do it.
You ain't gonna eat.
No, what's on your mind? You still,
you still think? Yeah, he
I see the wheels turning, bro.
We can stop. I see the smoke all over again.
Right? Yeah, I see the wheels turning.
No, I'm thinking about. I've had multiple different thoughts as G was talking, and then as Ethan was talking. First of all, I agree with you that God didn't create mistakes. God's creations are perfect exactly the way that he designed them. Mm-hmm. From the trees to the grass to the dirt to the earthworms to the stars to the earth to the sun to human beings to every other creature that he's ever created. He created them exactly the way they should be. Mm-hmm. There is nothing at all incorrect about the work that God has done at all, period. Mm-hmm. That's number one. We say that, but we don't really believe it. A lot of times, especially growing up in the church. We say it all the time. God don't make no junk. I know I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. We say it all the time, but we don't really believe it because, again, to your point, the theme that's pushed more enthusiastically is the one that I am a broken wretch and all of these things, which I have been a wretch. I ain't gonna lie. I've been a wretch in my life. And and I have reached. You
said it with the mic can't pick it up.
Right.
Through his voice over here.
Right. But through work that I have done, and this is another theme that's not taught. We're not taught that we can work on ourselves. And this is one of the more things that is more damaging, in my opinion.
Right, I agree with that.
We're not taught that we can work on ourselves. We're taught that whatever your issue is, you just come and just beg about it and all of that kind of stuff. We're not taught about the innate power that God has given us as His creations and as beings that are created in His image. We're not taught about that.
Absolutely.
At least not. It's not prevalent. If we are, it's kind of in small circles that may be taught. But anyway. That's the first thing that I was thinking. And then the second thing that I was thinking is I was kind of going over the Beatitudes in my mind as you were saying them. And that's something that I want to study a little bit more.
It's powerful.
Because
foundational.
Exactly. Just thinking about the attributes of. So if Jesus, I consider, and I'm sure you guys do too, I consider Jesus to be the example for a human's life on this planet.
I agree.
There is no greater example that we have as far as how to live in this body while we are here, right? For his examples of the greatest attributes that a person can attain, the meekness, the merciful, and so on and so on. for those to be things that he pulled out of all of the possibilities. He chose those, and he said, this is what I want to share with you guys. But to me, that's powerful. And to me, I think that those are things that, those parts of his ministry, that and things like it, are things that we should focus a lot of our energy and attention on.
Absolutely. I agree.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
That's why. go ahead.
No.
Because that's what I was thinking. Like foundational, Matthew 5 lately has really been the springboard of my transition.
I'm gonna start
Matthew
reading
5
more.
has been.
Yeah.
It's really helped me slow down a lot, man. A lot.
I've studied Jesus' ministry more than any other part of Scripture for the last couple of years, pretty much exclusively, man. Just because just the life that he lived, the way that he taught, the way that he loved and forgave. I was thinking about when you were mentioning the forgive them for they know not what they do. I'm thinking about how powerful is that, man?
Yeah.
You're literally dying at the hands of these people.
Yeah.
We're not talking about getting beat up or put in prison or talked about or persecuted in any other way. We're talking about dying. You are on your last moments.
Yeah.
And your thought is not about revenge. Your thought is not about your own pride. Your thought is not about your ego. Your thought is not even about your family and your friends who are watching you die. Your thought is on the people who are doing this to you, and with such love and compassion to say, forgive them. They don't even know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Please forgive them.
Yeah.
Don't lay it to their charge.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
And so I'm number one, I'm thinking about how awesome that is. Number two, I'm thinking about how difficult that is to obtain. As
I agree
with the person that I am, man. That's difficult to obtain.
We have a hard time forgiving for much less than
I'm telling you, I'm telling you, we can't even step on our Jordans in there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We ready to fight and kill.
Man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. I think this has been a really good conversation, man. I appreciate it. I say it all the time, and I know we say it after we leave, but I want to say it on the air, man. I find these conversations with y'all to be so valuable.
Yeah.
I chew on these things literally for weeks.
I know, man.